Monster Hunter Wilds base game is now finished. The final major update has now been out for a couple of days, and for the very first time since launching a year ago, Steam reviews are now positive. So how exactly did this bonus patch please so many people? My name is Zenny, please join me as we go through everything new with Monster Hunter Wilds. We have a good chunk of things to go through. Performance improvements, one of the best fights in Monster Hunter history, 10-star quests, and more. And all of this has contributed to the reviews flipping from mixed to positive. Right, let's start with this. A giant question that's been floating around my channel: is the endgame actually good now? Okay, 10-star quests, aka the new highest difficulty tier. In case you haven't played in a minute, quite a while ago Wilds added 9-star hunts for the apexes and a select handful of other monsters. These fights aren't just a case of boosted HP and damage values, instead the monsters are much quicker, more aggressive, and chain attacks with challenging execution. That standard of difficulty was already enough to scratch the itch of most players, myself included. I have been quite critical of the game for its lack of endgame challenge, but my prayers were answered in that patch. But now in this latest update, Capcom decided to take it one step further. At present, 10-star quests only apply to the Arch Tempered monsters, which fundamentally were already tougher than their original counterparts. Here's the easiest way to understand what 10-star really means for you as a regular player. Think about the power jump of a monster like Gormagala from that previously mentioned 8-star up to 9. Well, when that update happened, Arch Tempered monsters like AT Ufduna were unaffected. They didn't get 9-star versions and remain the same. And so this brand new 10-star level is effectively like giving them that same buff that they had missed out on a few months ago. The margin for error against these guys is now so slim, one mistake can cost you a cart very easily. And I found that for me personally, swapping in and out certain skills, stun resistance being an example for Raidao, or adaptability for new Udra, has become extremely important. I'm already seeing tanky builds like Gogmazios are seeing large surges in popularity, because farming these 10-star quests is going to be very stressful, and there's good reason to farm them as well. RNG charms have always been the subject of debate, mainly because it's stupidly unlikely to get something amazing. But fear no longer. Completing 10-star quests reward the player with increased odds of getting those golden age charms. And you also can't roll anything worse than a rarity 7 either. Long story short, the grind is much more forgiving. On top of that, these quests drop an item that can be traded in for Gogmazios parts, so we no longer need to meticulously farm explicitly Gogmazios on loop to reroll our weapons. We can instead opt in for a bit of variety while working on our Dream Artian. While the RNG systems have been streamlined, they're still RNG. It will be drastically easier for good players to get their hands on a good charm, which is great, but I imagine someone who disagrees with the mechanic at a foundational level is still going to have those same gripes. And finally, on the lines of endgame, from the previous title update introducing the Transcendence feature, build crafting is not only greatly improved, it's also much more meaningful. As discussed earlier on, the average player will need to build around whatever 10-star they're trying to farm. This can even be the case for some of the 9-stars with how hard they can hit. Furthermore, Gogma Artians only continue adding build creativity, so yeah, builds are diverse and they truly have impact now. And segueing on from all of this, potentially one of the best fights in Monster Hunter history has been given to us. Arch Tempered Arkeveld. Right, I'm going to talk completely off script when it comes to this section of the video. Bear in mind this is just my opinion, but I've also had quite a few people agree with me. This hunt is harder than anything I've ever done in Monster Hunter, maybe with exception to Primordial Malzeno. Now, true, I am saying that as someone who wasn't particularly great at Rise, and I wasn't playing Sunbreak actively, so by the time he came out I was quite rusty. But on the contrary, I have been playing Wilds since day one, and I've been doing so quite actively. In my mind, I'm better at Wilds than I am at World, for example, and so the fact I think Arkveld is this difficult speaks volumes. The choice of weapon you take into the fight naturally is going to have quite a large impact in how you view it. I am a longsword main. Now the way we play longsword in this fight is you have to counter everything. Now I know some of you are going to let out a big sigh there, because how is it fair longsword can counter all of this, right? Okay, that's a different conversation. But even though that's true, specifically in this hunt, making one mistake, right? Missing one input, one timing, even countering in the wrong direction will lead you to get hit, and that hit in some cases will one-shot you, or it could stun you for the follow-up. Arch Tempered Arkveld's moveset itself isn't too difficult. In fact, there's quite a lot of telegraphing, so it is easy to counter at the right times. But where a lot of the difficulty comes in is the fact it's so relentless. As a player, you need to be locked in for the full duration of the hunt. And bearing in mind, for an average player, I'd say it's going to take you somewhere between 20 and 35 minutes. Having your full undivided attention in a fight for that long gets fatiguing and it gets stressful. But the second you slip up, maybe you glance at your second monitor, maybe you look at the map for some reason, you're going to get hit and it's going to hurt. There's zero downtime in the fight, it's relentless, and for me, it's perfect. And another thing to note, while there is a lot happening, there's a lot of AoE, and there's things that are going to catch you off guard, none of it feels BS. It's straight up a 1v1, are you skilled enough to get through this? There's nothing he does you can't deal with, and there's nothing cheesy about the fight. He's got the nice variety of close range versus long range, he has the spectacle attacks versus just straight up swiping his tail, and of course the Guardian transition where he unlocks the full powers is just cinematic brilliance. However, this hunt asks a further question. What does this mean for Master Rank? Because right now you're listening to me explain that I think this is harder than any Master Rank content we have in Iceborne and most of Sunbreak. And not just Arkveld, by the way, I think that other 10-star AT fights also would not find themselves out of place in Master Rank. We're very much so at this tier of difficulty already. When we do get to the expansion in Master Rank, the worst case scenario in my opinion is the difficulty drops again. Players are going to be disappointed at that. How are we going to build up to such high levels of challenge in base game and then go down a peg or two? So this leads us on to the second options. Either this is now the standard for difficulty in Wilds, most fights in the expansion are going to land themselves here at this level, or we are going to get Elden Ring DLC levels of difficult. My personal view is I would like this to be the golden standard. If we can get multiple Master Rank fights that feel like these 10-star quests, I will be happy. Now, I'm not saying I want the whole game to be like that because it would be detrimental to the average player. But the level of resistance and pushback 9 stars currently give is a great starting point, and then give the active players the additional challenge we've been searching for to the extent that these 10 stars have provided it. Towards the end of the expansion or in the title updates, you can then give us the BS challenges that are going to make me slam my desk. But yeah, expectations have been set with AT Arkveld, and I'm incredibly excited to see where the team goes next. Right, let's get back on track. The two major criticisms of Wilds over the past year have been difficulty and PC performance. As we've just discussed, difficulty, that can be checked off the list. So how is the performance doing? Well, I'm happy to report that the game is running great for most players now. Maybe I'll regret saying this, but it looks like the only people still struggling to run Wilds are people with outdated hardware. Good PCs are handling the game with ease now. And this shows in the upswing of positive reviews. You can go read them yourself. A lot of them revolve around the fact people can actually play the game now. And speaking personally as a content creator, I've been seeing many more comments on videos and in stream chat that people are returning to Wilds because they can run it, which is great to see. And to make things abundantly clear, it is a huge disappointment that it's taken almost 1 full year to get the game stable. No matter how much I have enjoyed Wilds, I couldn't in good faith recommend someone to have bought Wilds during that period. But now, in 2026, I would recommend this game to anyone. And if you are someone who got hit with performance issues at launch, now is a great time to try the game again. Beyond everything we've already discussed so far, there's also the other title updates and various other content that you can dive into. And this brings us full circle. Is Monster Hunter Wilds finally complete? Well, difficulty has both accessible quest for casual players and challenge for active players. Performance can be ticked off the list, and endgame is filled with various systems to keep things interesting, although one could argue that RNG needs reconsidering. But is it too late? Maybe. 10 million players bought this game at launch, over 92% of them quit after the first month. Those people have missed the redemption arc, understandably so. Wilds was riddled with problems and completely underwhelmed expectations from people who had just caught up on World and Rise. While I fully anticipate all this good word of mouth will convince a good chunk to come back, many other gamers have moved on. I expect the months leading up to expansion will be the real test. That's when players will decide to give the game another shot and see the improvements for themselves. My personal opinion is that Wilds is the best base game for any Monster Hunter so far. If you haven't played in a while, there's no better time to jump back in than right now. We have no idea what's coming in the expansion, but there's an abundance of potential for the game to even further improve. So if you are still on the fence as to whether or not you want to buy Wilds for the first time, I'd wait for the expansion news and make a judgment from there. Or at the very least, cop it on sale just to put your mind at rest. But right, that's going to be all for me. Thank you very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. Thanks for watching.